Last Sunday, marking the start of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, I was only half joking when I said that I imagined many of us, Jewish or not, are surely ready to join the Jewish people in turning the page of the calendar and beginning a new year. I know I, for one, would welcome a fresh start, a chance to press the reset button or fast forward to a point on the horizon where we will eventually return to some sense of normalcy. Needless to say, 2020 has been quite the year, and we still have 3 months to go. And much of what may well be ahead in the coming months may not be any easier than what we've already been through. And so it's understandable that we might be looking somehow to start over. Louisa Fletcher's poem about the land of beginning again sums up, I suspect, what many of us may be feeling. I wish that there were some wonderful place in the land of beginning again, where all our mistakes and all our heartaches and all of our poor selfish grief could be dropped like a shabby old coat at the door and never put on again. I wish we could come on it all unaware like the hunter who finds a lost trail. And I wish that the one whom our blindness had done the greatest injustice of all could be there at the gates like an old friend that waits for the comrade he's gladdest to hail. We would find all the things we intended to do but forgot and remembered too late. Little praises unspoken, little promises broken, and all the 1,001 little duties neglected that might have perfected the day for one less fortunate. It wouldn't be possible not to be kind in the land of beginning again. And the ones we misjudged and the ones whom we grudged their moments of victory here would find in the grasp of our loving handclasp more than penitent lips could explain. So I wish that there were some wonderful place called the land of beginning again, where all our mistakes and all our heartaches and all our poor selfish grief could be dropped like a shabby old coat at the door and never put on again. As many people remark every autumn, as the leaves begin to change and the air grows crisp, as we shift from one season to another and return to routines only recently relaxed by summer, this is the time that most feels like the true beginning of the year. This sense aligns particularly well with the timing of the Jewish high holidays, which began last weekend with the start of Rosh Hashanah and will end at sundown tomorrow, as Lynn said, with the close of Yom Kippur. These 10 days, these days of awe, are a time for celebrating and wishing one another a sweet new year. But they are also a time for taking stock, for reflecting on one's behavior over the past year, for assessing whether there is work to be done to heal hurts, and for seeking forgiveness for any harm that's been done. These 10 days offer a process each year for starting over, a map for finding one's way to and through the land of beginning again. The lesson here, though, is that there is some assembly required, some real work involved in order to make a new start. Simply wishing for some magical land is never enough to get us there. And even with hard work, sometimes that distant land can forever feel just beyond our reach. There's a story about an old Jewish man who would get up at the break of dawn and go every day to the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and he would pray fervently from morning to evening. One of those days, a journalist from the London Times who observed him do this daily asked him, "You come here every day to the wall. How long have you done this and what are you praying for?" The old man replied, "I've come here to pray every day for 25 years. I pray for peace and reconciliation among the people of the world who are so divided by hate and conflict." The journalist was amazed hearing this. "How does it make you feel to come here every day for so many years and pray these things when so much conflict remains?" she asked. The old man looked at her sadly and said, "I feel like I'm talking to a wall." Whether we pray or not, I'm guessing we all know something of that feeling of talking to a wall, of finding only a wall when we are trying to find our way. There is something to be said at times for continuing the conversation with such a wall, even if it seems we're getting little or nothing back. Answers, meaningful answers, after all, are sometimes slow to come. But the act of returning to the wall over and over again may be the embodiment of an enduring hope that eventually is the thing that opens a new way. And when that doesn't happen, the silence of a wall can help us to accept the reality of what is, to understand our circumstances for what they are. It is no coincidence Zen Buddhists often sit meditation facing a blank wall, finding it to be an invaluable, if immovable, teacher. But it must be said as well that sometimes a wall is just a wall, that it is an obstacle, a dead end, and something that must be overcome by going over or under or around or through. Now, which kinds of walls are which, I really can't say. That's where, for each of us, deep discernment comes in. And it is the place, I believe, where spiritual growth so often begins. To ask when we find ourselves stuck, what is this wall and where did it come from? What hand did I have in building this wall? Does it have anything to teach me? What makes me so sure it doesn't? Is this wall sending me in a different direction to a different possibility? The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of what can be." Of what can be, of what is possible, of what may be on the other side of whatever wall we may face. Possibility is a funny thing. It is both a promising and a daunting notion. Possibility can overwhelm us and beckon us to come near. It can draw us into deeper living or divert us from our purpose. Possibilities are, as they say, endless, and they can run in all directions, good or bad. It's quite easy to be stopped in our tracks by having too many choices, too many possibilities, or maybe even by having any possibilities at all. Sometimes it's hard to believe we truly have options before us, and often that we have more permission than we realize or even need. Kaylin Hott gets at this so well in her sassy poem, "God Says Yes to Me." I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said it sure is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, "Honey," she calls me that sometimes, she said, "you can do just exactly what you want to." "Thanks, God," I said. "And is it even okay if I don't paragraph my letters?" "Sweet cakes," God said. Who knows where she picked that up? "What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes." Sometimes we sit staring at walls of our own making. This is in no way to diminish the realities of inequality that deny equal opportunity to all. And it's not to ignore the way our options narrow as we age, as way leads on to way, and the branching off of one path means the leaving behind of others. But the poet's point is one we would do well to heed. There may be a lot more yes, yes, yes in the universe than we are typically prepared to accept, let alone embrace. What we find to be walls and roadblocks may be exactly what we need to break through to a new year, a new land, a new way of being. It's a matter of what we make of the possibilities before us. Benjamin Zander, the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic, is the author of The Art of Possibility, a book I treasure. He is also a professor at the New England Conservatory of Music, where he puts his heart and soul into helping young people redefine themselves by reimagining the world around them. I had the pleasure of playing in an orchestra he conducted over 30 years ago. He was and still is a force of nature, someone who tends to see gateways where others see only walls. At the conservatory, he is in the habit of giving all of his students an A at the outset of each semester. All that is required of them is that they write a letter in the first week of classes, post-dated to the end of the term, describing why they got the grade. And then they are invited, challenged to live into that A. Here's part of a letter of one student describing his experience after the fact. In Taiwan, I was number 68 out of 70 students. I come to Boston and Mr. Zander says that I am an A student, which is very confusing. I am number 68, but Mr. Zander says I am an A. One day, I discover I am much happier as an A than a number 68, so I decide that yes, I am an A. Zander says that an A can be given to anyone in any walk of life, to a waitress, to your boss, to your mother-in-law, to members of the opposite team and the other drivers in traffic. When you give an A, you find yourself speaking to people not from a place of measuring how they stack up against your standards, but from a place of respect that gives them room to more fully realize themselves. Your eye is on the statue within the roughness of the uncut stone. The A is not an expectation to live up to, but it is a possibility for them to live into. I would say that this practice of giving an A is a spiritual practice, really, for it affirms and invites forth our highest valuing of each other and ourselves. It is a mindfulness practice that calls us to believe the best about others, a quality in short supply these days, as cynicism and distrust deepen and taint the well of goodwill that makes human community possible and worthwhile. From what I am seeing in the world today, in this moment, it seems we would all benefit from learning to trust that most folks are doing the best that they can right now. We should all be giving more A's. What touches me most about Zander's work, though, is the way he exudes the promise of possibility in absolutely everything he does. The promise is clearly something he learned at close hand. He tells the story of his father who was imprisoned in a concentration camp at the end of World War II. The elder Zander remembered how some men would get up in the morning and walk to the barbed wire fence, looking out for long periods of time. Eventually, he got to know a number of men in the camp. Some were bright, some were professors, some doctors. And then one day they decided to set up a university right there in the camp. Before long, they had 40 courses being taught on a variety of subjects. They did not have proper paper or pencils, but they had a university. Zander shares the story in response to a question about whether his ideas of possibility are simply naive positive thinking that are in denial of the harsh realities of life. They aren't. Possibility, Zander answers his critics, is a way of thinking and being available to all of us, no matter what our circumstances. I share his belief, at least on most days. After all, the people in the camp were undoubtedly in the most despicable of human conditions, inhuman conditions, really. But they made a choice to embrace another possibility. To do so, they denied nothing they faced in their reality, but they asked the critical question, now, what is possible? Zander's story reminds us that a world of possibility can be only one good question away. Is this a wall before me, or is it another way of possibility? I believe this to be a fundamentally spiritual question, for it raises so much of what we know of faith in ourselves, in each other, and in the universe. May that faith grow in each of us, that we may know deep in our bones, even when we're stuck facing a wall, and especially now when the world feels like it's going to hell in a handbasket, that there are other possibilities awaiting in a land of beginning again. I leave you then with these reminders from Sheena Pugh in her poem, Sometimes. Sometimes things don't go, after all, from bad to worse. Some years muscadel faces down the frost, green thrives. The crops don't fail. Sometimes a human aims high and all goes well. A people sometimes will step back from war, elect an honest person, decide they care enough that they can't leave some stranger poor. Some people become what they were born for. Sometimes our best intentions do not go amiss. Sometimes we do as we are meant to. The sun will sometimes melt a field of sorrow that seemed hard frozen. May it happen, she says, for you. May it happen for each of you, indeed. Blessed be.